It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity.
Hello, model citizens. Welcome to Junction. Tonight on Trains and Tech, we're going to talk a little bit about paperwork. I have been doing immense amounts of paperwork and dealing with a lot of the things that happen after paperwork occurs. And it's been a little bit of a whirlwind of the last week. I've learned so much, though. I mean, like, I thought I understood stuff as a, model railroader. I've been going to op sessions for about 2.5, 3 years now. And I thought I understood certain aspects of things, but actually trying to implement them myself, I had to understand them again on a completely different level. Now that, like, I had to actually make the choice, it became a different, it's just a lot more to deal with. So I'll mention that, or we'll talk a little bit more about that, I guess, today. It's actually been a good last week. We had Thanksgiving here in the US, and some people came up from South Carolina. I think I mentioned I was going to see some friends. If you guys know the story behind this, you'll know who those friends were. So they came up, they visited, we got to run some trains, and like, sometimes, at least for me, I lose focus. I lose kind of the track that I'm on, you might say. Yes, pun absolutely intended. And I had stopped doing op sessions, and I wasn't moving forward with certain things. And over the last 2 weeks or so, I've gotten this sort of new inspiration. I've scheduled my next op session, and that's kind of like pushing me to keep moving forward. But what I also realized is I'm doing paperwork on something that has nothing to do with my next op session and doing paperwork for my next op session. And where the two join has been an interesting discovery as well. So, for example, the yard that is here right in front of me, and I just realized I didn't turn the camera on, so I can't actually show you that camera, but we can look at this camera. So this yard that's in front of me right here, I, for the longest time, was calling it Croton Harmon Yard, and the industry track that is just down that way a little bit, I was calling Croton on Hudson, and those are two towns in Cortland. And I was kind of happy with that, but having some discussions, and you know, that it was kind of like my railroad's a freelance railroad, right? But it's not 100% freelance. It's kind of proto freelance. I want the concepts, the ideas that I am working on to have some basis in reality. And in reality, Croton Harmon is a passenger yard, not a freight yard. And it kind of got me questioning a lot of the different areas on the layout and what the names were. So I started going through the names, and I decided I would call this Selkirk, which is a huge freight yard north of the city. But then what do I do about this staging back here? Because that was called Selkirk. So now that I'm calling this Selkirk, well, that's going to be Albany. So, you know, trains go to the big yard in Selkirk, and trains that are going north continue up through Albany off the layout. But then what do I do with the Croton on Hudson track over there now? Because, well, that doesn't make as much sense. And I kind of said, well, there's a Domino's factory in Yonkers. And even though Selkirk, which is 2 inches away from that industry track, is actually 115 miles away from Yonkers, I'm going to call that Yonkers. So this became Selkirk, that became Albany, that became Yonkers, and now all of this signage that I have around my layout is all now completely wrong and all needs to be redone. All my waybills now need to be redone. All of my panels need to be redone because I've got the names of the industries all over the panels, and everything is now starting to change. So I was like, well, if I'm changing things and I'm going to have to reprint things, why don't I just redo everything? So Riverside Yard, that's staying Riverside. That's this layout is based off of the 69th Street Transfer Bridge. I live near Riverside Park, and that's like the inspiration for this layout is Riverside. So that wasn't going to change, but I have a freight house and a team track in the Riverside Yard, and I was just calling them Riverside Team Track and Riverside Freight. But then I started, you know, doing a little research, right? Because there's, you know, prototypes out there that used to run trains along this route that I am, you know, kind of freelance modeling. And what I learned, or what I realized, which I kind of knew, but, you know, this was called the West Line. So I've now renamed this, and now I don't remember what I renamed it. Now I got to look. So I've got the new car cards here. So I renamed it the West Side Freight House. So in Riverside Yard, I now have the West Side Freight House, and I've got, let's see what I can find here. Got the West Side Freight Off Spot, and then I've got the West Side Line Team Track. That's what I called it, the West Side Line Team Track. So even though those are in Riverside Yard, instead of just calling Riverside Team Track and whatnot, I was now giving them names that I felt had a little more life, a little more story, a little more realism to them. You know, it wasn't just kind of like, you know, whatever. And then I was like, okay, 72nd Street, you know, I should change that as well. So that became the Upper West Side. So what was 72nd Street in that corner back there is now Upper West Side. And the two industries that I had there, one industry was I was calling the River Division, and the other industry was called Marine Department. And those were real items that were in this area back in 1968, but I wanted to delve a little deeper, find out a little bit more information. So I realized the Marine Department was actually called the Department of Marine and Aviation. So that is now renamed over there. And the River Division was actually the West Shore Railroad's River Division. So the West Shore Railroad, which was on the West Shore, had a facility. So that now gave me the opportunity that the West Shore Railroad now has a maintenance away facility in that building there in the corner. So it's just like things just kind of started happening and changing. And so this building here has always been the IRT powerhouse. And on the waybills and everything, I was calling that the IRT powerhouse. And I always hated that because the IRT powerhouse was the building, it wasn't the area. So again, started doing some research and stuff. And the area at one time was called Riverside South. But I didn't want to call it Riverside South because I felt like having Riverside and Riverside South was a little too confusing to people that didn't know the layout. So I wanted to keep the names completely separate. So what I learned was that Riverside South, back in the day, there was an area called San Juan Hill, and San Juan Hill was, I guess for a lack of better terms, or at least how I understand it, San Juan Hill was kind of the slums of the area. So that is what the IRT powerhouse basically took over, was the land where this slum was located. So now I'm going to call that San Juan Hill, and that makes more sense. That's more grounded in reality. And similar with the car float, right? So I was calling the car float 69th Street. I was calling it 69th Street because, as I mentioned here, the 69th Street Bridge is the inspiration for this layout. So I was calling this 69th Street. But really it was in Riverside South Park, or Riverside Park South. I can't remember. One of those two things. And now I have to look again. So I decided to call it I decided to call it Park South. So instead of Riverside Park South, I just called it Park South. And that is now the car float area is Park South. So I don't know, I guess, you know, I started out not being, yeah, yeah, exactly, Ed. Now, and that's it. Like it starts, it starts creating a story that never existed before. And I'm not a prototypical modeler. I don't pretend to be. I'm not a rivet counter. I don't care a lot about the details. I have 40-foot boxcars on my layout from 1936 up to, I think, like 1970 something. And like, you know, I don't care. I've got billboard boxcars on the layout that in 1968, they were made illegal, or whatever you want to call it. But, you know, I've got them on the layout, right? So I'm not a prototypical modeler, but this sort of delve into things has been interesting, and it's a little bit reinvigorating, what I'm working on. So Bob's asking, how far are you going back in time? I keep kind of going through like, okay, like what is the year of the layout? And I've always kind of said like 1968 to 1973. And lately I kind of just said, you know what? It's 1968. I guess technically it's probably October of 1968. And the reason I think, if I've got the month right, I may have the month wrong, but I think it was October of 1968 that the New York Central sold to the Penn Central. And basically, instead of the Penn Central buying this trackage, the Human City Junction company bought this trackage off of the New York Central. So the Penn Central never got this section of trackage. So I think, we're kind of in October of 1968, but again, like my nickname will never be Lance, right? I will never be a prototypical modeler. It's just not, it's not the part of the hobby that I am like really, really driven to. But I started diving into something that kind of required me to understand prototypical railroading more than I had. Yeah, Bernard, no, 68 is not the year I was born. Close, but I was not born in 68. So this was before I was here on this earth. December 31st, 1968 was the last day of the New Haven. Oh, I didn't realize that. There you go. So I don't even know what ARC is. Don't be an ARC member. Is that like welding or something like that? I don't even know what that is. So how did I get here, I guess, would be a good question. Or you might say, like, what happened that started me going downhill. Good, I can have the RT cars on the split rock since I'm model 1969. There you go. There you go. Look at the SRCA Facebook page after the stream. Guess you'll have to find out. Yeah. Didn't I just tell you guys that I don't like doing research? So why am I going to go do research? All right, so why did I go down this rabbit hole? My layout is basically, it's all within yard limits. It's a short line. There's not a lot of train traffic on it, but I like electronics. Like the fun part of modeling to me, or a part of it that I really enjoy is the electronics. And when I built this layout, one thing that I did that was a lot of fun for me is I put a lot of electronics on it that I put for the future. And I didn't know when that future was coming. It turns out that future is now. And now I am suffering my ideas of the past. So I'm basically, long story short, I've gotten into signaling. And that's something that I thought I kinda, sorta understood. I mean, I've gone through my share of red lights, and it's model railroading, so like, nobody died or anything like that. It's a big deal on the real railroad to go through a red light, but, it happens. I just don't, I didn't really get the signaling. I didn't really understand it. So I started going down this signaling rabbit hole, started asking a lot of questions to a lot of really smart people. I don't know how or why I am fortunate to know some of these people, but I happen to know a signal engineer, a guy that basically lays out signaling for the real railroads out there. And, other people that, wrote books on signaling and like know this stuff and understand this stuff. So I was able to start like picking their brain and saying like, I don't understand, like, what's the difference between a diverging approach and a medium approach? And like, why is a restricting signal got like 6 different aspects when the indication is all restricting? And I couldn't wrap my brain around it. It was like, now that I had to actually implement something, I just I just couldn't do it. So where are we going? I don't know where we're going. I've got a bunch of stuff queued up that I'm gonna share. Basically, it's all paperwork related. I've got my waybills. I have these are my new set of waybills. I've printed them out. They're already incorrect. The reason they're incorrect is because I printed them before I learned something. And now that I have learned something, they are wrong. And now they bother me that they are wrong, but they're version 8 of waybills. So we're gonna leave them be for now. And I am just gonna know that they are wrong. So this is what's interesting to me, is that Thomas Splitrock actually knows what all of those different things mean. And what's even scarier to me is that I kind of understand exactly what all of those mean as well. And the fact that I kind of am starting to get it is kind of interesting. But why are the waybills wrong? The reason the waybills are wrong is that when you set up signaling for a CTC system, you're basically setting up control points. You're setting up different areas on the railroad that are going to be controlled by the signaling. And in the case of what I'm doing, and again, this would never be like this on my railroad. This is completely fantasy, but I'm setting up basically CTC signaling on the layout, which means I have control points. So Selkirk, very easy to look up. What is the control point for Selkirk? You look it up, you go online, and it says it's CP132. Then you say, great. And you start looking up other control points. And as you go south from CP132 along the rail, it kind of says like, oh, there aren't really any control points, blah, 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 blah. But there are milepost markers. And the reason Selkirk is CP132 is that it is milepost 132 measured from Penn Station. So Penn Station is 0. And as you head north, the numbers increase. Me being the idiot that I am, and not being a prototypical modeler, I numbered the zones on my layout from north to south. So my north zone is 11, and as you go around the layout, it goes, 11, 21, 25, 41, no, 31, 41, 45, 51, 61. But the problem is that's not correct, because control point 1 is going to be there, and control point 2 is there, 11 is there, 21 is there, and 132 is there. So now my zones go in one order and my control points go in the other order. It's all a big mess. I saw earlier, Lance was saying that he does not have signaling on his layout. I'm kind of curious what his, I'm kind of curious if his prototype had signaling. So Paul is much more of a prototypical modeler than I am. So he wouldn't just randomly add signaling to his layout unless it was like actually there. And yeah, so he, right, somebody just said like, oh, what, like the New York Central, here it is. You know, the New York Central was measuring mileposts from Penn Station. No. And again, that's why, again, it's all made up. In 1968, from all of the research that I've done that I can find, they didn't have control points. So all of the control points are just made up on my layout. Control point 1 is actually 0.7 miles. Control point 2 is actually 0.9 miles. Control point 11 is actually 1.3 miles. So like I'm just kind of making it up. Lance says, I model small parts of a class 1 which has signals. So where are the signals on your layout? Yeah, Digger, the numbers are random. You know, it's funny you say that because when I was talking to this person that was helping me out with signaling, he kept saying, where are these numbers coming from? And it was like, I was like, I don't know, I just made them up. You know, I'm just taking a guess. I don't know. Yeah, so Penn Station and Grand Central Parkway are within feet of each other, not miles. So I guess that's kind of a good thing. And yeah, so this is true, right? Control points are for dispatchers, zones are for the yards, and a dispatcher wouldn't know what the zone is, which is true and which was interesting because when I started down this journey and I started figuring out like what I was going to number my control points, I started numbering my control points based on the zone numbers. And then just as SplitRock says, the control points can have names. So what I started doing is like control point 132 is actually Selkirk South. So all of the signals at control point 132 are SE1 South, SE2 South, SE3 South, because they're all Selkirk South. And then control point 21, what is that one? 21. Control point 21 is Manhattanville North. So control point 21 is MV1 North, and MV2 North, MV3 North. And then control point 11 is MV1 South. So it's kind of, this is something that I never would have known. And, you know, SplitRock helped me out answering some questions as well. So, and here's the other thing that was incredibly confusing to me. Every railroad basically does signaling differently. And not only does every railroad do signaling differently, every railroad within the different areas of the railroad do signaling differently. So like, let's take Union Pacific, for example, right? Union Pacific has been buying different railroads. So different railroads had different signaling. So when Union Pacific buys a new railroad, they don't just go and rip all the trackage out. They basically just start using their signaling. So it's, now Union Pacific has multiple different signaling systems. That's something I didn't understand. I assumed that there was like this national standard of signaling and all railroads followed signaling. So I didn't understand why when I go to one layout and then go to another layout and then go to another layout, their signaling is like completely different. Now, sometimes their signaling was completely different because the layout operator didn't really follow any prototype. They were just kind of doing their thing. Other layouts were very prototypical. I have decided that I am going to do route signaling. And I know I live in the Northeast. I shouldn't be doing route signaling. I should be doing speed signaling. Nobody talks about the difference between route signaling and speed signaling. Most people don't even know that there is a difference between route signaling and speed signaling. It's the difference between diverging approach and medium approach. Go figure. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Can you name them something like Bob, Larry, John, etc.? Sure, absolutely. Split Rock says, I travel over 3 Class 1 railroads and have 3 dispatchers from 2 railroad set up signals. And he's talking about the real railroad. He runs 1-to-1 locomotives. So I guess the question is, like, I guess you have to get certified then on, like, all of the railroads that you run on, I guess? Adam says, yeah, the engineer conductors get trained on the new signals or certifications for certain routes. And I guess the other thing that was confusing to me is, how do you know which indications are for that aspect, right? So, like, I don't know, if the aspect's red over yellow, how do you know if that's a medium approach or a diverging approach, or I don't know what else it could be because I'm not sure. So we'll see. Paul's giving me a hard time, gonna call me Lance Jr. Paul, when you are ready to implement signals, I will be happy to screw you over and tell you everything I know, which somebody else will tell you is completely wrong. So on the RTD, which is in Denver, Colorado, it's their light rail. Red over yellow was leaving signaled territory. So there you go. Yellow over yellow on the UP, it's called advanced approach. On the BNSF, it's called approach medium. I don't know. And this is it, right? So every railroad's got its own rules. The aspect is like red over yellow, whatever. The aspect is what you see on the signal. The indication is what that aspect then means. So you need to find your rule book to know what your aspect, what the indication is of your aspect. Red over yellow is diverging approach. Approach next signal expecting to take the diverging route. See, and that's different. That's interesting that you say that, because my understanding is the description that you just gave is approach diverging, not diverging approach. So what I was taught, and here we go, like, this is the part where I'm getting confused, and maybe I've screwed it up. But what I was told is that the first word of the, now I'm forgetting what it's called, the aspect, and it starts with an I, and now I'm forgetting what that word is, indication. What I was told is the first word of the indication is what you were doing in the moment, and the second word of the indication is what you were doing at the next signal. So a diverging approach means that at the signal you're at, you are diverging, and you are approaching the next signal is a stop signal, as opposed to an approach diverging. At the signal you are at, you are approaching the next signal prepared to stop, planning to diverge at the next signal. But Detlef, who runs the LCC channel that I've been following to try and learn about LCC, to try and learn about programming, flipped around the approach, approach slow and slow approach to match what SplitRock's saying. So now I'm very confused, because to me, what I was taught is that a diverging approach means you are diverging at that signal, approaching the next signal. An approach diverging means you're approaching the next signal from the signal you're at to then diverge on the next signal. So I'm kind of waiting to see what SplitRock's going to say. Maybe I misunderstood what I was being taught, and maybe all of my signal indications are completely wrong. So paperwork. I've been doing paperwork, right? I mean, let's get to it a little bit. Here, I'm just confused. All right, so here's some of the paperwork that I started creating. The signal locations, I got a bunch of help from the guys on my Discord channel, helped me out with that. The control points, I kind of figured out through research and made stuff up. Here's like SK3S, SK1S that I was talking about earlier. That is Selkirk 1 South, Selkirk 3 South. So using the names to identify the signalings. But these are... I am finding this very amusing, this conversation right now. So there's a train show in 2024 on a Monday. So I'm very... Thomas, you didn't answer my question about diverging approach and approach diverging. All right, so he says, can't wait until he learns about electric locks. Funny you say that. If you notice on my drawing right here, I have electric locks. I have 2 of them between CP11 and 12, and I have 2 of them between CP1 and 2. So yes, I am going to learn about electric locks. Yeah, we don't have to talk about it now, SplitRock. I guess my point just is that even as much as I keep learning, what the signal engineer told me is that signal engineers don't understand signaling. Basically, what he was telling me is that everybody is confused by signaling. It's a very confusing subject. It's not the easiest thing to learn when you're looking at it from my perspective. If you're an engineer and you need to learn a specific set of aspects with a specific set of indications, no problem. Not no problem, but you know, but you have like a foundation, right? So specific set of aspects, specific set of indications, you're good to go. I'm trying to figure out on my layout what aspects and indications that I want to use on my layout. And I'm looking at all of them across the whole US. And I can't, it's tough. Okay, let's go back to this. So this is my railroad. CP132, this guy right here. That's this corner over here, right, basically right before you enter the north side of the layout. This middle area right here is Manhattanville, which is over on the window wall, and then CP1 and 2 is over on the south wall. If you notice, there is no indications or control points over here on this side of the layout. The whole layout doesn't need them. This section definitely doesn't need them. The other thing that I am planning to do on this layout is hang up repeaters. Basically, what these repeaters are is, here's CP132, SK South, which is Selkirk South. These are all of the signals that are a part of SK South. These are going to be mounted on the wall, up along the backdrop, repeating, duplicating the signals that are on the layout. some signals are hard to see on the layout because of the orientation of the signals. You may be approaching a signal from, the opposite side that you can see. So a lot of the layouts, not a lot of the layouts, a couple of the layouts that I've been on, I've really appreciated having these on the wall. I think, I like lights. I think lights are fun, so we're going to have lots of lights. I am going to use the same node, the same, what do we call it? The same decoder for the signal as I do for the repeater. So it's not, it doesn't really increase the cost much. So again, like this is all paperwork. I have not, I haven't done any actual building yet. This is all on paper. This is all theory at this point. This is me learning. This is me trying to figure out what it is I want to do on the layout. Yes, I have an operating layout. Yes, we could operate the layout without any of this. This is just another layer that I'm adding on top of already existing stuff. How am I going to control all these signals? Oh boy, here we go. I've decided, so in a previous stream, I said I was going to use NCE Lidits, and that was what I had completely intending to use. And then I started talking to a couple people that have tried to implement Lidits on the railroad, and they kind of said, don't bang your head against the wall trying to do it. Just go do it right the first time. So I am going to use LCC. So I'm going to use the signal 32H. I'm going to have 30 signals on the layout, or 30 signal heads on the layout. They're not all separate masts. There are some 2-head masts and some single head masks. But this is going to be the layout. So I have my my regular old DCC command station up here. It connects to my JMRI computer. The JMRI computer over USB is going to connect to my LCC node. My LCC node is going to connect to the signal LCC32, and then from the signal LCC32 over serial cables, blah, blah, blah. Again, all paperwork, all laid out. It's kind of like, I know Paul's giving me a hard time about NCE. I could have used LocoNet on this as well. I have a lot of equipment on the layout that is LocoNet. A lot of it is, it's working fine. It does what it needs to do. But, LCC has been out about 5 years now. It is an open protocol. It's not licensed, so certain things are moving to LCC. I've been fighting the move to LCC. I've been trying everything possible to not move to LCC, but this is going to be my move. What I'm eventually planning for is swapping my command station. This command station has done me well, but it keeps kind of crashing on me a little bit, and I don't really know why, and I'm not sure what's going on. And I don't know. I think I might be I think I might be moving on from this command station. But since I have LocoNet, I'm going to use the LCC LocoNet gateway, so I'll be able to bring in my LocoNet information into LCC and blah, 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 blah. So this is the hardware. This is everything that I need to run the layout, including my electric locks that Split Rock was talking about earlier. These are the signal aspects I chose. Are these correct? I don't know. Are these the ones that I'm going to program on my layout? Yes. Most of these signal aspects, these are the old N and W signals, Norfolk and Western. I'm kind of near Norfolk and Western territory. New York Central did touch or connect, or Norfolk and Western did come into New York. So it's not that, you know, whatever. Norfolk and Western used route signaling, meaning that the signaling indicates the route, not the speed. So I have single heads and double heads. So rule 326 clear. This is clear on the main route. So green or green over red. The red indicating that the diverging route is not clear. And this is where I'm curious what Split Rock thinks. So my understanding is this is a diverging clear, meaning at this signal, you are clear to take the diverging route. So it is not clear diverging, which would mean you're clear on the main route, prepared to diverge on the next route. This is diverging clear. I know, here we go again. Same thing with diverging approach. You have a red signal on the main. You have an approach, yellow for approach. One thing that was not included in these was the restricting. The reason that I added the restricting is that there wasn't a signal for restricting, but the reason that I added a restricting is because when you run around your train and you need to get back onto the track that your train is on, you need a restricting signal to get back on the track that your train is already occupying. I don't know why, but that's what you need. So I'm doing it as blinking red, right? So a single head, when the top is blinking red, that is your restricting. And then I have a restricting for the main track and a restricting for the diverging track. So that's kind of made up based on the consolidated code of operating rules. I'm going to answer a side question because Dennis has been so kind as to work on a locomotive for me. The reason the reverse light is probably not programmed to come on is that I probably programmed that locomotive to be a part of a consist and never reprogrammed the locomotive to break the consist. So it probably is not coming on for that reason. So definitely feel free to adjust any of the programming so that the programming is correct for a single locomotive. That's most of the signals I missed if there was yellow over yellow. There is no yellow over yellow because the way I'm using yellow is that yellow is approach. But because this is route signaling, you cannot approach on both the main and the diverging track at the same time. So yellow over yellow would mean that you have authority for approach speeds on both tracks. So yes, I want you to change it. I want you to make it correct as if it is a standalone locomotive. Absolutely. Dennis is helping me put a keep alive in the locomotive that I'm going to use on the time saver. Yellow over yellow just sets you up for the next signal. It won't be red. Well, you'll have to explain that later because I don't understand what you're saying at all. This spreadsheet I got from Detlef. Detlef is, if you go on the groups.io on the LCC channel, he's very helpful. He's part, if my understanding, he's part of a bunch of the different, groups and stuff like that, the LCC group and whatnot. He put together this document to help people deploy the signaling using LCC. So this next sheet, basically what this is it gives you a breakdown of all of the indications. Up here, what the aspects are for those indications. I put this down here so that I knew what it is for all of the labeling and everything, terminology and whatnot. And what this document is going to do is basically log all of the programming that I do for each of the various control points. So I have not filled all this out yet, but here's my little, this chart here basically represents, these here. But these are the numbers in, what am I trying to say? These are the numbers in LCC or whatever, the aspects in LCC. Very confusing. See, and this is where things just go completely off the rails, right? So, like, what does all this do, right? Like, what in the world am I talking about? So, I don't know if this next thing I'm going to do, I don't know if it's going to work at all, but we're going to try, and we're going to see what happens. So, this is my dispatcher's panel, and yes, I'm covering the logo. The logo's red. The logo will not be red when I turn the power on to the layout. The red logo indicates that I do not have track power. I'm going to attempt to turn on the layout, and I'm going to attempt to see if detection works. So that was a good first step. If you notice, the logo in the top left corner is no longer red. You notice up here, the track went from white to red. That is because there are cars on this track, and that's what it is. You can throw the turnouts right from here, right? So I don't know if you noticed, but I just clicked on this. Goes from green to yellow, yellow to green, telling you where the tracks are. And the fun thing for me, I guess, kind of thing, is that on the dispatcher's panel, you can follow a train around the layout, right? So, this goes from white to green, and then you can go to, the next track goes from white to green, and then this track goes from white to green, and then this track goes from white to green. So the dispatcher can see the train going around the layout. So all I need now are all the signaling. One thing I do want to point out, if you notice, when I went from this white to red to this white to red, if you notice, the turnout did not come on as if it was detected. That is because the turnout is separately detected. So track is detected, the turnout is detected, and then the next piece of track is detected. Theoretically, that is so that I know if the train is on top of a turnout, so hopefully that you won't throw one of the turnouts as well. Now I just need to show what train it is. There is a way to mark what train is on the route, and as the train follows the detected track, the train number will actually move along with it. So that is definitely possible to do. But if you notice, this here looks very much like this line diagram here. So this is Excel. This is what I built in Excel. This has all of the signals and everything shown right here in Excel. And I have taken all of that and I have built a dispatcher's panel. What's really neat about this, though, and the thing that I like about this, and the thing that I want to share this hobby with people. Everything that I talked about today, I gotta admit, is confusing as all heck. At least it's confusing to me, and I'm the one learning about it and trying to implement it. But my goal in trying to share this hobby is to take these systems, take these processes, and make them all basically work in the background so that the user can appreciate it, but the user doesn't have to understand it, right? So, I can show you this screen and I can say, okay, the train is over here. Oh, the train is on this track. Of course, it's not saying on. This train is on this track in Manhattanville. Like, that's what it is. Thomas is trying to figure out how to throw a turnout. You click the button. So you see this button here is green, and this button here is red. So here's a crossover, right? So when I throw this button, this one will turn yellow and this one will turn green, right? So I throw that, and if you see, they both change colors. Oh, oh, I know. Oh, took me a long time. And again, this is where I fall flat on my face, right? Not a prototypical modeler. I screw up the terms all the time. You don't drive a train, you run a train. You don't throw a switch, you line a switch. I know. I get it wrong all the time. I don't know what I'm talking about. This is a journey. Operators, not drivers. Is that I was told from this guy here that it's called running a train. It's not a switch, it's a turnout. Yeah, and I get confused because I think of it as a switch motor. The motor that throws a turnout is a switch motor, but I think of it as a turnout, and this is, again, yeah. Don't worry, I'm always cleaning the tires on my locomotives. I know, I gotta clean the tires on my locomotives. It's driver in Europe. There you go. Steven says operator's the correct term. Thomas says, I remember you trying to build laser cut end scale picnic tables. You've come a long way. And that's, right here, I guess for you, it's that way. Right here, dispatcher's panel, that I could give you a link and you could open this up on your iPhone and you can dispatch my layout from an iPhone with this panel that's right here. Yeah, I've come a little bit of a way. Never too late to learn. I hope not, because I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. I'm still making it up. But yeah, I got started back in the day during the Showstopper, and this was a hobby that I loved as a kid. I left it for a while, but this is a gentleman that I have not seen in a long time. But back in the Showstopper days, we would hang out all the time on the internet, and I know I tell this story all the time. In 2019, I thought trains ran in circles. That's all I knew, is that when you went to a train show, the trains all ran in circles. There wasn't a train at a train show that did not run in circles. That's how model trains ran. And that's what I thought I needed. So when I started, designing a layout, it had to go in a circle. And now I've got this dispatcher's panel that obviously is not a circle. It's just yeah. The gentlemen on Friday that used to stream were Crossed Anchors Railroad, Brian and Michael. Lynn was around in those days. Steve Childers. I think about a bunch of those people every once in a while, wondering, which ones are still doing model railroading and which ones aren't anymore. But, I'm grateful for all the people that I've met through this hobby. This weekend, Friday night, I'm going to one layout that I've been to before and I love going to, and I have a great time meeting the people. And then on Saturday, I am going to a layout I have never been to before. I have no idea what to even expect. I got invited. I said yes. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to show up. I'm going to meet some new people. I'm going to have a good time. From the city that never sleeps, farewell, model citizens.
It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity.